And there we are, visible to the world. And my question is, trades and the building industry are not areas for women to work in, or are they? Hello and welcome. My name is Sigrid de Kaste. I'm the creator of Global Business Networking, live online and online expos, global online expos of impact. And I was hugely curious when I was talking with Ange Dion about health, safety, and women in trades. Hi, Ange.
Hello, Sigrid. How are you?
Good, great to have you here. I mean, I want to know workplace health and safety is a hugely important area, obviously, especially with the building and construction industries and trades being part of that, directly connected. But first of all, how did you get into that whole area as a woman, as a female?
Well, admittedly, I walked into an air conditioning company and I signed up to be their dispatch officer. So I was answering calls in the call center. They realized that I was pretty structured and organized, so they offered me a position to step into a safety officer's role. And I was like, what's the safety? I was on the retiring end of a career of massage therapy, so I had no idea what WHS meant or what it was stand for or how big it was or how important it was. They said they were going to pay for training, and I was like, okay, well, could be an opportunity. And then I stepped into a new career by accident. So ended up going into an air conditioning company for a customer service role and ended up being the safety officer or put into the safety officer's role from the ground up. And I had to start learning and implementing and studying and trying to understand what I was doing and getting it happening across the team.
So really, I think the first lesson that I'm learning here is go into something and just be open to whatever comes to you and take it with both hands, right?
Well, it was an opportunity that I obviously didn't see where I was going to be. I mean, that was 20 years ago, and 20 years later, I'm running my own business and I've been in the industry for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So as that happens, you're going into something very different to what you initially went for, becoming a safety officer. It's a big area with lots of changes, and give us a bit of a feel for what that's looked like over the last, well, you've done it for 20 years. I mean, that's a long time. You won't be able to give us all of that, but in a nutshell, what have been some major changes in that area of safety, health and safety?
Well, 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of women on construction sites or in the game or in the industry. We didn't have courses. We had courses for mechanics, plumbers, electricians, chip rockers, tilers, painters, but we didn't actually have them where women were actually in them. Back in the day, we didn't have a lot of engineers, architects. We now have females in the industry. We also have, back in those days, we had you could listen to your earpods or you put radios on construction sites where we had noise blaring half the time. We can't do that anymore. That's another change. We uh we had the wolf whistle back in the day where the guys used to whistle if there was a female on site. Now we're not allowed to whistle because there's harassment, sexual harassment, bullying harassment laws that are out at the moment. So the industry's changed completely. Um, Sometimes I say it was more fun back in 20 years ago than it is now to be on a construction site. But hey, we're there to work, not to play. That's what the momentum is.
Mm.
As for safety in itself, it changes regularly. There's updates on legislation just about daily, and we need to keep on top of things.
Mm. I'm just coming to the wolf whistle. I have to say, I can't remember where it was, somewhere on LinkedIn. I think in a post, somebody mentioned that they actually thought it was quite nice to be whistled at when they were walking past the construction sites in the days when when it happened, because it was kind of a sign that you were noticed. So, yep, regulations have changed. It doesn't happen now, but some people, not everybody, objected to it. So, I guess in a way with health and safety, it often is something that people are not really wanting to take on. Is it because they can't be bothered? Is it they just really don't know, especially of course on construction sites in the trades and that? Is it lazy? And what is your impression in that area?
I think there's a bit of a grey area in when you start a business. And I was having this conversation with a solicitor recently where people will get an ABN number and go and get a company name and start working. And then all of a sudden they start the business and then they don't realize that they need to put job descriptions in place. They need company org charts. They need to set up like the human resources components before they So I always say to people, you bought an ABN number, you got an ABN number, you got a company name, you're setting up a business, but you don't know what to do next, or you haven't read the next steps, or there's no education piece saying, right, you've done this, now you need to do these steps next. So people will get a job, they'll get a purchase order, they'll run around and get a job, someone will do a quote. And then when they start working, normally they'll go to a construction site and they'll have a process in place, or they'll have systems in place, and they think that they can work underneath those systems. What they don't realize is that if you're running your business, you need to be doing this stuff for your own business too. Doesn't matter if you're a sole trader. And that's the education piece where I try to tell people that you really need to realize that it's not, you can't keep working under somebody else's system. You must be working under your own stuff. You must have your own things in place.
I think that's a hugely important point, in this country, in Australia particularly, in my experience over the years that I've been in business, it is very easy to go into a business. Nobody tells you, as you say, what is all attached to it. And even if you find a source that gives you some ideas, like a comprehensive marketing plan, nearly 200 pages that nobody ever looks at, especially when when those people are new in business. Health and safety has got, I don't know, less than one page sometimes in those particular ones that I have seen in my time. And you are absolutely correct. It is not something the small business, even if they have staff, looks at in detail. And I think the danger there is the changes that are happening constantly to keep up with it. Is there a system in place that shares, that updates, that changes
Yes.
have happened?
Yes. Safe Work Australia has a website, so it has Safe Work New South Wales. You can register for the subscriptions, and they give you the updates and the bulletins. They're the minimum you're going to receive on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Safe Work Wrap has a 3 monthly newsletter that comes out to you in your inbox. But then, of course, people got to read it. Once you get the email, what do you do about it? And do you understand what is applicable to you in your business? Or do you just see another newsletter from Safe Work and just delete it? Like I always say to people, the Safe Work website has so many tools. You can go and get anything you want there for free. However, a lot of people don't know where it is or what to do or where to find it or what it means for their business, or they'll take the wrong information. So it's more an education piece. And that's where I pretty much predominantly work in with people to educate them that this is what you actually need to have in place. You
Mm.
should start here as a
Mm.
basis.
So is it different for each state then in Australia where we are? Is there
No,
differences?
the legislation is harmonised, is streamlined. There's only Victoria that hasn't come across to the same laws. They in 2011 they streamlined everything, and ideally we're now working across all states with the new legislation. Everybody's got the same laws in place except for Victoria. Pretty similar, minor differences between the two states. But ideally, if you're working in any state, you've got a Safe Work page that you can actually get documents from. So WorkSafe Queensland, Safe Work Victoria, Safe Work Perth. There's a whole heap of different portals.
So globally, now I'm
Mm,
talking globally because that is
mm,
my focus with what I
mhm.
do, and I know you're looking at that as well.
Absolutely.
What uh, what are the differences or changes? I mean, is that something you also are looking at stepping into to support business on a global scale, Ange?
Well, the truth is that the standard for safety changed to a global standard recently. So now whatever we do here, it's got to be done across the world. So there's no difference. And if you're looking at accreditation to get certified for safety systems, the standard is one right across everywhere. So at this point, it is a global. It's great for me because I can take my work anywhere. I can work in Kuala Lumpur, I can work in Malaysia, I can work in Thailand, I can work anywhere around the world. I was in Greece for a year last year, and I was discussing what I do, and everyone was looking at me to say, well, we don't do that here. And I was like, well, you have to. And then when there were a couple of incidents that actually played out in the time that I was there for over 12 months, I was saying this, you should be doing this and this should be happening. And everyone was like, it's exactly what's going on. And I said, see, you do have safety systems. You're just not aware of them because you probably haven't been educated, or you haven't known about it, or you probably don't listen in when someone's talking to you.
So it is always, I think that that's something that we can say universally in most things, whether that is starting a business or knowing about things, whether that is whatever, it's the awareness about that something is there and what it is really. And that is what you're doing in a big way, working with businesses. So how do people find out about you and your work, and is there a particular way? I mean, are you really active in certain areas where you promote what you do?
I'm
Yeah.
pretty much very active on all our socials.
Mhm.
I pretty much network in a lot of spaces. The truth is, there's limited of people like myself in the industry. We have companies that create systems and draft systems, and people will go and buy a digital system, and then they don't know what to do with it, or they'll buy it and then they'll get some support from the company that they've bought it, and then they've forgotten how to do it, or when it's not put into real time practice. So what I will do is I work with most of my work is refers. So people will refer me and say, you've got to talk to Ange, she'll come out and sort it out for you. And then I'll step in and educate. So I'll take what they've got, I'll have a look at what they're doing, and then I'll review it. If it needs to be reviewed, because we have to do a 12-monthly review on documents, we'll review the system for them, and then we'll train them and say, right, okay, so what are you currently doing at the moment? And have you got a digital app that you're working with? And if they say yes, then we'll walk them through what I want to see on a weekly basis, what they should be doing. We'll set up monthly reporting for them so they can do their reporting guidelines. And we set them up as in, should there be an incident, that they will be covered, or they'll have most of the tick boxes, or they'll have systems in place that they'll be able to present to an inspector should they need to, or if they're being audited for accreditation, they should have the documents in place.
Look, it's a fascinating area, and I wonder here in Australia and in your work over your time in this field of expertise, do you come across people who really, yeah, that's all very well, it doesn't apply to me? Who are those people? I mean, not finger pointing. I don't mean that, but
No, and I call it the oblivion. I call me lastminute.com because people will ring me
yeah.
lastminute.com. It's usually before they get on a job site, they can't get onto a job. So they're like, can you please help me? I'm trying to figure it out. Or I've got, or they've been dealing with a tier one contractor. They can't get their documentation across the line because they don't know what they're doing. So, and like I say to people, you do electrical, or you do plumbing, or you do building, and I will do the document trail and train you in what you need to be doing, or
Mm.
I'll set up your systems. What they do is they've been trying for ages, they give up because they can't get through, or they're like, well, I haven't had an accident in 10 years, I don't really need you.
Mm. I think that's a big lull for many that, it's with insurance, isn't it? Oh, I've never had anything happen. Why should it happen now? And then the thing, of course, happens. So I think from what I'm hearing, it really reinforces the importance of that whole area of workplace health and safety to be aware of. It's all very well to pop some sort of a chart on the wall or something and say, here, everybody look at this, but it does need to be integrated and worked on and actively taught and pursued, I guess, from the business owner, the manager, whoever is responsible, the HR person, to really make it alive, a living document. And not only that, an area to really look into is what I'm hearing. And just that, would you agree with that? Of course, from your,
Absolutely. Most
yeah.
definitely.
So when we look at now your focus on women, now we're talking, we mentioned women in the trade. So is that something that has increased recently, or has it always been drip, drip, drip in your experience?
When I first started, there was hardly anybody on site, no females. Um, I think there was one young lady training in engineer to become an engineer, and that was nearly 20 years ago. And then over the years, I found that there's more women coming into the space. So I was like, okay. Then there's a nice little group that empowers women to join the trades. And I've been watching and following that movement. And ideally, I always say, like, I don't do the tools. I have not worked with the tools and I don't intend to, but I do know of women that do use the tools, and they should be given the advantage of or stepping into construction, manufacturing, into the industry. They shouldn't be, they can go and do their own thing. So we're empowering women to join us. The passion project is to empower kids to join the trades. I was one of these students at school that wanted to do mechanics. And of course, when I was 15, 16, girls just didn't do the
No, you
mechanical
had
course.
to
There was
do
not,
needlework or something like that.
there's just to be, it was my mother's nightmare. Mum wanted me to be a lawyer, and she still does. And I'm like, no, thank you. Admittedly, these days we work with WHS law, but there's a different story altogether. And I wanted to be a mechanic. Admittedly, I changed careers. I picked a career that I was working with oil and I was massaging. However, there weren't many women in the space. I don't know of any women that were doing anything at the time. So we've got a 13% population at the moment in the industry, and we'd like to see more. And why not?
Mm.
Now, years ago, it wasn't, a lot of guys were like anti, they didn't want to know about it, but they're welcome. And there's a few people that are warming to the space, and they're like, I mean, I know some of the tradies in my chapters and my networks that have actually got females in their trades, and they're like, I put on a young girl, and I was like, really, good on you, and we support so we can put people into the trades. We need more apprentices in our industry. We definitely don't have enough apprentices. And I'm all for an apprenticeship program because I've run a great program with the company that I used to work with for years. So we put people through air conditioning. The kids come out of school, they didn't know what to do. We did a couple of weeks work experience, and then they picked where they wanted to go and we placed them. So I'm all about empowering. So I'd love to get into schools and talk about, why should you join a trade? I mean, if you're not a bookworm and you don't want to go to university and you don't like studying in theory, you shouldn't be, don't do it. Just, jump out and do something else.
And I think it is really important to come away from this kind of a thinking, oh, you've got to do something great where you get lots of income or security or whatever. That thinking is really out the window, because being in a trade, going into construction, something like that, everything, like you said earlier, for yourself, even everything leads to something else, and you've got to be open for something different and new. Is there, in your experience so far, is there a difference in regards to that females work or approach the trades or the areas of construction differently to males do, with how they look at it, how they work in it? Is there a difference at all? And I'm not talking necessarily male or female, I'm just from the mindset. Is there a difference?
Not necessarily. I think it comes back to the individual, how much passion you have for the work that you do.
Mm-hmm.
um, Whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. I've come across some great tradies that are males, and then I've got some great tradies that are females. So it just depends on, like, I met a young carpenter recently, and I was fascinated. She was first year in, and she's one of the stronger women in the trades. She's been around for a long time, and she's now, I think she should be graduating now. But ideally, when I met her, I was like, she goes, they teach me everything that the guys do, I get taught, which was great. And she says, I got a great boss. And she's now started her own company and she does her own trade stuff and she's empowering other women to join the industry. So I think it's a matter of how passionate you are about what you do, and it just shows in your work.
It absolutely does. And I guess the surrounds, the environment that you step into as an apprentice probably has a lot to do with it as well.
Absolutely.
Like you say, when they are supportive around a new one, especially a woman, then that can make a big difference, of course, as well. So, what do you know about the global picture for women into trades, women into construction? Have you got much connection there that you can see a similar picture more are coming in, or is that not really at this stage on your radar on a global?
I haven't been across any global women's groups at the
Mhm.
moment. I am looking to step out and do more global work. At the moment, it's a matter of pretty much staying. Well, everything I've done to today has been around Australia, and I have a little bit of global exposure while I was overseas, living overseas. However, I haven't stepped into the USA market to see what's going on. It is probably something I want to look into, or I'd love an opportunity where I can tee up with a global something, an organisation that does women in construction globally. I mean, I know New South Wales has got heaps, and Australia's got lots of conferences where women get together for in the space, but I haven't got across a global one for women in construction.
Particularly. So if you could put a call out, let's call it that, a call out there. Hey, I am here. This is what I can do for you globally there. What is that call? What are you saying? Who would you want to connect with you, contact you to take you on to help them with their workplace health and safety, whether that is for women particularly or generally on the topic, Ange? Give us your spiel. So,
Well, my future, I was sitting and reflecting the other day that I've done a lot of running around the field for 20 years, and it's now time to educate and empower on a global scale. So, my future looks like planes, trains, and automobiles, paid speaking, conference, keynotes, to do with safety across on a global scale. So that's what I want to do. I want to be able to. I mean, if I train in the construction space in New South Wales. I'm part of a college that I train the white cars, I train the health and safety representative, and I train the Cert for safety. However, I'm now at a point where I want to do more global work.
Mm. So on a global scale, somebody would come to you from, I don't know, Canada, and they say,
Mhm.
okay, workplace health and safety, what do I need to know? What would be an ideal connection there to want to take you on to guide them? Do you have to go there, or can you do it?
I would be going in for a conference, or I'd be going for training for, 30 days or 2 weeks to set up or implement a training program on
Mm,
educating their teams on, and then most of their leaders, to be honest with you, because safety does start from the top. And I'd be putting them through a training program of what they should be doing, where the responsibility lies with them as directors, managers, supervisors, operations managers, all the way down to the employees in the company.
mm. And I think I would imagine that probably the situation is worldwide, what you've described that we have here. People sort of in business know that there's health and safety and they need to look at it, but they not really know enough about it to fully immerse themselves, especially because of the laws and the legislation, all those things, they probably think, yeah, it keeps changing too much, so I just do the basics. So it would be really powerful to be connected to the first step, I guess. Is it talking about that those connections through networking? That is often the way that you get connected, and you are a big networker and you have lots of connections that way. That would be one way to get to be introduced and connected to some international potential clients. Is that right? Do I see that
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when we talk about that, and when we're talking about the bringing more women, more females into the field, would it be useful for young women particularly to do networking, whether they're already in that trade or whether they're looking to get into it? What benefits from your own experience with networking would you see and recommend they should look out for?
Absolutely. I think if you're in the industry, it's always great to share your stories with others that are willing to step in, or want to explore. I do know that for a fact, I've been to a couple of networking events where some of the girls shared their experiences, different industries. So I think there was carpenters, plumbers, electricians, and they were talking amongst themselves and saying the differences with their trade and where they're at in their study journey, their practical skills, how much better they learn on site. Um, in my case, I encourage, if you're in the industry, step up, because you might have had to deal with your own bullying. There might have been a bullying case around you that, or you might have had to earn your credibility on a site or in a company. I know I certainly had to deal with a lot of bullying harassment when I was first started in the industry. But over the years, I'm more resilient. I now turn up to a site and everybody knows who I am, and they're like, "You're welcome now." Whereas years ago, I was like, "Oh, here she is again." Whereas
Yeah,
now it's like, "Hey, hey, hey, she's here to help us." When they realize that I'm actually on their side and I'm there to help them, it
yeah.
changes the perspective. So I always encourage women, or any student who's keen to step into a trade, to research, or reach out, and we can give them some ideas or some tips on how to get moving forward, rather than sitting at school waiting for an opportunity to arise when you finish school, or when you leave, or when you do something, or too late when you go to uni for a year and decide that this is not what I want to do.
I think that's excellent, and I'll put that call out there right away to contact you. So all our viewers and listeners further on, and those who will see the post and the replay of this, to reach out to you directly. You are on LinkedIn, easy to connect with and reach out and find out more in more detail and specifics around whatever the situation is somebody might be in. I definitely like the call for more women into the field, not for the sake of being in that area of work, but that's this traditional way, oh, you've got school and you've got to go and study, only then is it a real something you're aiming for. I think that is definitely outdated. And women can bring another angle into the trades, into what to do, and even how to interact with their team members, I think would make a difference. I'm sure you had your experiences in how to deal with the guys around you.
No,
Did,
absolutely.
yeah. Is there something that stands out you want to share?
I think in the beginning when I was first going to site, I was always picked on for being there and, why are you here again? And here she comes again. And here she goes, she's going to cause all these problems. And it's just a tick and flick system. And I was like, okay. So you'd hear all the banter every week. Eventually I got part of being part of the banter. So in when it was all targeted towards me, it became, oh yeah, we can pick on her. She's cool. And then you built the relationship with the team members, and now it's a different story altogether. So now it's like, okay, oh, Ange's coming. What do we need to get? Or at the beginning, it was like they had bacon and egg rolls and a cappuccino each on a Friday morning at a toolbox meeting when I turn up, and I never had one. And then eventually they started buying me one so I can feel as part of the team. So it's just a matter of, when you bring them,
Yeah.
how you bring them together and how we work together over a period of time. And it's all about earning trust and respect, more importantly.
I think that's fantastic. And trust and respect, certainly by being out there, by being engaged and being part of it. And as we said before, networking is a really great playing field, a really great way to experience that, how to interact with others, no matter how shy you are, and certainly to make connections. So let me do a bit of a summary of what we've talked about here. I mean, there's so much that can be shared and more detail in different areas of what you're doing that we could go into. But I wanted to give an overview of, so the health and safety area certainly is very deep. It is deeper than most people in business think, and it is something to certainly look at right away when you start a business, if that's what you're doing, and if you're a manager or a HR person somewhere. That is something to really take a look at. Now, while we have, everything happening here in Australia at this point in time, and we're talking here in this country, the rules, the way that health and safety needs to be implemented is global, it's international, is what
Absolutely.
Ange shared with us. And I'm just seeing her there confirming it by nodding. So there is definitely a global outlook on health and safety for us to be aware of. And Ange does work in Australia and internationally because it can be applied. And so if you have any questions or thoughts or doubts around health and safety, do connect with her. Women, more women into it. And has got also a lot of experience and the drive to bring more of us females into that area.
Absolutely. Why not?
So again, contact her, connect with her, chat with her about what's entailed there and what might be a good way. And from the perspective where I'm coming from, of course, global business networking online. So making those connections, if you are here in Australia and you are in a trade and you might like to explore the world, you could connect, you could network, go out there, make new connections, and work in another country in that same job. Is that correct, Ange? I've just thrown that in there,
No,
but
absolutely.
possibilities.
Absolutely. There is a huge possibility. What people don't realize is what we do here can happen anywhere across the world.
Hmm. So make those connections, do some networking, and look at health and safety as an area that is hugely important. And for women, for us as females, just get in there. Times have changed, and if it is a bit hard at the start, you can change it. Right, Ange?
We have coaches that can teach you resilience and how to stay in the industry.
And you've done it. Come on, you're
Oh,
there
yes, absolutely. I have. I sure have. Yes.
and you're a picture of it. Any parting words that you would like to leave the audience with for this interview, Ange?
Parting words. I think I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity, Sigrid. It's an opportunity to go global, and we are pushing towards a global brand. If anybody is, I think that the closing line will be if you're not aware of your responsibilities as a director, I suggest we start talking now, whether you talk to myself or whether you talk to the safe work unit that's in your or the laws that are across your state, country. Please do reach out because you do not want to be caught out if the
Hmm.
inspector turns up.
I think it points back to this sort of this thinking, oh, I don't need insurance for something and nothing ever happened to me. Workplace health and safety is the one thing that just because nothing's happened for 20 years, when it does happen, there is so much attached to it. Really isn't worth not having everything in place and having done everything you can, and not only can but need to, Ange, isn't it?
Most importantly,
Mm.
absolutely.
And as we said, it does go for the global stage. It's all internationally and globally similar, the same, that it needs to be in place, and you can certainly help them. I thank you for making the time and chatting on this today. Like I said, there's much more detail in many of the areas here. It was important for me to talk to you as a woman, having been through that and now promoting, standing behind and supporting women to go into the trades, and certainly making it valuable that health and safety at the workplace, any workplace, is hugely, hugely important. Thank you. And we'll
Okay.
say goodbye for now.
Bye bye for now.